The judge said in his decades as a lawyer and a judge, this case is one of the hardest things he's ever had to do. He noted it would have been a much easier decision had the police worn body cameras, as officers served her with a restraining order from her ex and took her 4-month-old son. This decision emotional for Fitzsimmons and her family, who have not seen her now 1-year-old son since June.
Imagine you're at home with your infant son when, without warning, police officers arrive at your door. They're carrying a protection order requested by the child's father. Along with it comes an order to remove your child from your care. Within a matter of hours, your entire world is turned upside down. A confrontation follows. A police officer fires a shot. You are the one who is wounded. Yet somehow you are also the one who ends up under arrest. In a single day, everything you've worked for begins to unravel. Your career, your reputation, and your relationship with your child. The Fitzsimmons case has drawn comparisons to other high-profile cases, including that of Karen Reed, which many in the true crime community will be familiar with. Similar themes have emerged in several Massachusetts cases, including the case of Sandra Birchmore. Kelsey Fitzsimmons, born on November 18, 1996, was a police officer with the North Andover Police Department in Massachusetts. She was shot in her home during the summer of 2025 by a fellow officer from the same department. The incident immediately attracted significant public attention and raised serious questions about police accountability, institutional culture, and allegations of misconduct within local and state law enforcement agencies. Kelsey Fitzsimmons was involved in an armed confrontation at her home while officers were serving a restraining order that had been obtained by her then-fiancé, Justin Quinta. During the encounter, Kelsey was shot in the chest but survived her injuries. Kelsey Fitzsimmons and Justin Alien met on Facebook, were together for 1 year and 9 months before the June 30th, 2025 incident, and got engaged in October 2024. Kelsey's supporters have argued that she was treated unfairly by various parties involved in the case, including some of her former colleagues, individuals connected to her ex-fiancé, and elements of the judicial process. As a result, the case has become highly polarizing, with strong opinions on both sides. Kelsey was charged with assault with a dangerous weapon and pleaded not guilty. Her trial was initially scheduled on March 23, 2026. Kelsey elected to waive her right to a jury trial and instead proceed with a bench trial. This means that the case was decided solely by a judge rather than by a panel of 12 jurors. The proceedings was led by Judge Jeffrey Kopp in Essex Superior Court. One factor that may have influenced Kelsey's decision to opt for a bench trial rather than a jury trial was the belief that a judge may be better positioned to evaluate the complex legal and factual issues surrounding the case without the influence of extensive media coverage or public opinion. Kelsey's supporters hope this approach will provide a fair and impartial assessment of the evidence. Kelsey joined the North Andover Police Department in the spring of 2024. Prior to her law enforcement career, she attended Fisher College and the Massachusetts School of Law. She also served as a correctional officer with the Essex County Sheriff's Department. At the time, Kelsey was engaged to Justin Quinta, a firefighter with the North Andover Fire Department. The couple welcomed their son, Caden, in February 2025. A significant turning point in Fitzsimmons' life occurred during the summer of 2024 while responding to a particularly traumatic call alongside fellow North Andover officer Patrick Noonan. The incident involved the deaths of a mother and her infant child. Kelsey was approximately 20 weeks pregnant at the time. Police officer Patrick Noonan is 50 years old and has decades of training and experience in law enforcement. The emotional impact of the event was profound. In subsequent statements, Kelsey indicated that the experience led to a close friendship with Noonan as the two officers relied on one another for support while processing the trauma they had witnessed. Their connection would later become a notable aspect of the broader case. Kelsey has also spoken openly about her struggles with postpartum depression following the birth of her son. She stated that she was diagnosed in March 2025, approximately 3 weeks after giving birth. Postpartum depression is a recognized mental health condition that can affect individuals after childbirth and varies in severity from person to person. Seeking treatment and support is an important part of recovery, and many people experience significant improvement with appropriate care. On March 9, 2025, Kelsey was involuntarily admitted to Lowell General Hospital for approximately 12 hours for evaluation and treatment related to postpartum depression. Earlier that day, emergency responders had been called to her residence following concerns about her mental health. The day after her hospitalization, Kelsey surrendered her department-issued firearm as well as at least one personally owned firearm. Her license to carry was suspended and she was placed on administrative leave by the town of North Andover on April 30th, 2025. In May 2025, Kelsey petitioned the court to have her firearm license reinstated. During this period, she was actively engaged in treatment, meeting with a therapist and receiving care from a psychiatrist following her release from Lowell General Hospital. On June 18, 2025, authorities cleared Kelsey to return to duty and restored her license to carry. She was scheduled to resume her duties with the North Andover Police Department on July 4th. The fact that medical professionals and law enforcement authorities approved her return to work suggests that she had met the necessary requirements to resume her responsibilities as a police officer. However, events that unfolded later in June would significantly alter the course of the situation. On June 28, 2025, Justin Iaquinta, her fiancé, requested a restraining order against Kelsey. In an affidavit submitted in support of his application, Justin described an altercation that allegedly occurred while the couple was in Maine with family members and friends. Justin alleged that Kelsey struck him in the face several times. He further stated that he left the location with a friend and stayed at a hotel because he feared for his safety. In the affidavit, Justin also claimed that individuals who remained at the gathering reported that Kelsey was heavily intoxicated and had become physically aggressive toward others while attempting to reach him. It is alleged that the situation escalated to the point where friends reportedly contacted law enforcement agencies in both Massachusetts and Maine due to concerns about Kelsey's well-being and the well-being of those around her. When Justin filed his affidavit, he further alleged that Kelsey had threatened to take their infant son away for an extended period. According to the affidavit, he interpreted these statements as being consistent with comments she had previously made during periods of emotional distress. These allegations formed part of the basis for the restraining order application and would later become an important component of the legal proceedings that followed. In his affidavit, Justin alleged that Kelsey had previously threatened to harm herself and their unborn child during her pregnancy. He further claimed that she had physically assaulted him on multiple occasions, striking him with her hands and feet during various incidents.
Retrieve some items, guns or anything like that?
Yes, the day prior, I had gone to obtain, I knew that I needed to pick up my firearms. I had feared for my son, and I thought that his life was in danger and grave risk.
According to the affidavit, Justin expressed serious concerns for the safety of their child, writing that he feared Kelsey might harm the baby if their relationship ended, which he intended to do. He claimed that she had told him that nothing in her life was worth living for other than him. Kelsey, however, has strongly disputed these allegations. Through court filings, she and her attorneys have characterized the affidavit as containing false accusations and misleading statements. Her legal team argued that the document was deliberately leaked to the media in an effort to damage her reputation and influence public perception of the case. In court documents, her attorneys contended that the allegations were part of an effort to gain leverage in a deteriorating relationship and custody dispute. They asserted that Kelsey had been unfairly portrayed in the public sphere during an extremely vulnerable period of her life. Recordings of conversations involving Justin and law enforcement personnel regarding custody-related concerns were analyzed. In the recordings, the discussions focused primarily on legal options should Kelsey take their child to another state for an extended period. Critics of Justin's allegations note that certain claims later included in the affidavit were reportedly not raised during those conversations. An argument can be made that there is limited independent evidence supporting allegations that she intended to harm herself or her child. Considerations can be attributed to the broader context of postpartum depression, relationship difficulties, and emotional stress following the birth of her child. Mental health professionals frequently note that individuals experiencing postpartum depression may struggle with intense emotions, anxiety, and feelings of uncertainty. Statements made during periods of emotional distress do not necessarily reflect genuine intent or future actions, and each situation requires careful evaluation based on the available evidence. Kelsey, meanwhile, has consistently denied the allegations made against her in court and public statements. She has disputed the claims contained in the restraining order affidavit and rejected assertions that she posed any risk to her child. She has stated that motherhood was extremely important to her and that she would never intentionally place her child in harm's way. She also explained that she was the primary caregiver for her infant for extended periods, while her partner worked demanding shifts as a firefighter, and suggested that concerns about her behavior only arose later in the relationship rather than being raised consistently over time. Kelsey visited the North Andover Police Department on June 30th. During this time, she was reportedly preparing for an upcoming return to duty scheduled for early July and interacted with colleagues, including showing them her child. This period marked a transition point in the timeline, occurring just days before the events that ultimately led to the shooting investigation and the commencement of legal proceedings. Behind the scenes, there was coordination between Justin Iaquinta and individuals within the North Andover Police Department regarding the restraining order filed against Kelsey, as the application had already been made days prior. While officers interacted warmly with her in person, engaging with her and the baby and showing no outward indication of pending legal action, plans were already underway to serve the order. The air audio recordings in which Justin discussed the timing of the restraining order with a North Andover police officer, there was an intention not to alert Kelsey in advance, with the stated goal of ensuring that she would be at home and compliant when officers arrived to serve the order. Later that evening, shortly after 6 p.m. on June 30th, 2025, 3 North Andover police officers, including Officer Patrick Noonan, yes, the same Officer Noonan that was mentioned earlier to be close to Kelsey, arrived at 125 Phillipsbrook Road, the residence where Kelsey was living with her infant son. The property was registered in Kelsey's name, and she was the primary resident at the time. Kelsey was at home with her child and was breastfeeding around the time the officers arrived. The restraining order had been granted earlier that day, and the officers were there to formally serve it. As part of the court order, they were also instructed to secure any firearms located in the residence. The officers additionally coordinated arrangements related to temporary custody of the infant. The plans were made for Justin to be nearby so that the child could be transferred to him immediately following the execution of the order. This is when everything took a tragic turn. What was concerning is the manner in which the restraining order was executed and its immediate consequences for Kelsey. The custody arrangement was intended to be temporary, as both parties were expected to appear in court approximately 10 days later to present their respective positions. Justin had been granted temporary custody of the couple's 4-month-old child pending further court proceedings. If you are a mother breastfeeding a 4-month-old infant and without warning you are told that your child must be taken from your care, only to see him again 10 days later, what emotional toll would that take on you? What level of anxiety, grief, and distress would a mother experience when suddenly separated from her baby during such a critical stage of bonding and development? And what about the child? A 4-month-old infant depends on consistency, comfort, and attachment to their primary caregiver. What impact would an abrupt separation have on a baby who is still relying on that close physical and emotional connection with their mother? Roughly 10 minutes after officers arrived at the residence, Justin was called to the home to collect his belongings and assume custody of the child. During this time, Kelsey began gathering items for her infant, including clothing and diapers, being suddenly confronted with an unexpected and highly distressing situation involving her colleagues and the removal of her child from the home. Officers escorted Kelsey through the residence as she collected her child's belongings, moving between floors of the house. She informed them that her firearms were secured in a safe located in the basement. Justin later arrived at the residence. Upon being informed of his presence, Kelsey reportedly requested that he be kept away from her. One officer went downstairs to monitor Justin, while Kelsey remained upstairs with Officer Patrick Noonan. According to the investigative report, the 2 officers not present on the 2nd floor at the time of the shooting provided similar accounts of what they heard. One officer stated that he heard Noonan shouting, "Kelsey, don't do it," followed by 2 gunshots. The other officer reported hearing Noonan call out Kelsey's name before the shots were fired. Officer Noonan was also interviewed as part of the investigation. He stated that Kelsey had been kneeling and folding laundry to pack in the bedroom immediately prior to the incident. According to his statement, she then moved toward an area behind a door, re-emerged with a firearm, and pointed it at him. Noonan told investigators Kelsey discharged the weapon, resulting in the shooting that followed. This account forms part of the official record alongside other witness statements. According to Officer Noonan's statement in the investigative report, he heard what sounded like a gun being manipulated, though no shot was initially fired. He stated that Kelsey began to stand as he drew his own service weapon from its holster. As she attempted to load her firearm, he reported issuing multiple commands, including drop the gun and don't do it. Noonan told investigators that he believed Kelsey posed an immediate threat to his life at that moment. He stated that he fired 1 round, after which she continued attempting to load her weapon. He then discharged a 2nd round, which struck Kelsey. Following the shooting, the report indicates that the 3 responding officers immediately rendered aid and requested emergency medical services. Noonan reportedly informed the other officers that Kelsey had pointed a firearm at him, prompting him to open fire. A fourth officer later arrived on scene. According to the report, he removed the magazine from the firearm located near Kelsey and noted that a round of ammunition was present in the weapon. He then secured the firearm. Authorities subsequently executed a search warrant at the residence and recovered 4 semi-automatic firearms. The report also outlines Kelsey's account of the events leading up to the shooting, which differs significantly from the officer's statements.
So I followed her into the room, but I never went in the room. I stayed on the I guess the top landing, right before the door frame.
Okay. And did that seem to be a bedroom?
Yes.
Okay, so if you walk up the stairs, you had been in the room on the left, correct?
Yes.
Now she went across to the room on the right?
Yes.
Okay. You said you didn't go into the room yourself.
No.
Were you able to see her?
Yeah, she was 3 feet in front of me.
Okay, and what was she doing?
She was wrapping up clothes, and she had paused, and she said something to the effect that these are dirty. And I said, listen, wherever the baby's going, I'm sure there's a washer and dryer. I said, wherever the baby's going, most likely has a washer and dryer, so don't be concerned. And then I could tell she was getting upset. She started to shake, and I said, listen, court date is in 2 weeks. It'll be over before you know it.
Did something happen next?
Yes, she was on one knee when she was wrapping up the clothes, and she pushed off with her left foot and lunged behind the door frame. So to my left, to her right.
Okay. Could you see what was there from where you were?
Not from my perspective, no.
What happened after she went behind the door frame?
She reappeared with a gun and pointed it right at me and pulled the trigger.
Okay. Can you describe or show us how she did that?
Yep, so when she came around the frame here, she came up and click.
Okay. Where was it pointed?
My face.
Okay. After it clicked, what happened?
I screamed her name. I was completely shocked. She had the drop on me. She began to... The drop. Which means she had the tactical advantage over me. I drew my weapon. She was already backpedaling, and she was doing what we call a tap rack. Basically, when you do a tap rack, that's when your gun malfunctions. So when you tap the magazine, you want to make sure it's properly seated in the magazine well, and then you rack the upper receiver, or the slide.
Okay, I think the judge was writing. I'd like him to see this, if I could. If you could just, because you made some...
I'm trying to understand the lingo, too. Is it a tap, wrap, like a...
Rack.
Rack,
yes.
Okay.
May he stand up so you can see what he's doing, Judge?
Yes.
So a tap, and a rack.
Okay. So tap on the bottom of the magazine?
Yes.
No rack. Did she do that once or more than once?
She did it twice. So the first time she did it, it was slow motion. I could see her hand slide off the top of the receiver. She started moving her way around the bed, and she began tap racking again, and I was yelling at her, "Don't do it, don't do it."
And then what happened?
After she successfully got around in the chamber, her right arm started to come up, and I shot twice in rapid succession.
Kelsey's statement included her history with Justin. Their daily text messages were an aggressive cycle alternating between hostile and pleading after relationship reached a volatile low point just weeks prior during a joint bachelor/bachelorette party trip to Maine. While Kelsey desperately text messaged that she needed Justin to make things work, her communication would simultaneously flash with anger as she realized the relationship was in dire jeopardy. On the morning of June 30th, 2025, the couple had a series of tense text messages and phone calls regarding who would watch their infant son while Kelsey attended a required CPR training session for work. To resolve the argument, Justin called Kelsey while she was driving. He told her he was on his way to meet her at the North Andover Common around at 2 p.m. so they could exchange the baby and discuss their relationship before Kelsey go to training. Kelsey arrived at the park under the impression that they were attempting to reconcile. However, Justin never showed up, leaving her waiting there for roughly 2 hours. Of course, we now know that Justin intentionally used the park meeting as a distraction tactic. While she was left waiting at the park, Justin was at the Lawrence courthouse filing the emergency restraining order and stripping her of custody behind her back, setting off the tragic chain of events that occurred when police arrived at her home later that day to serve the paperwork. Kelsey said that later that evening, while at home with her infant son, she heard a knock at the door and was met by 3 police officers. According to her statement, she was informed that a restraining order had been filed against her, and that her child would be removed from her custody and that her firearm license and employment were in jeopardy. In Massachusetts, one party can apply for an emergency order without the other party being present. That means decisions can be made quickly, sometimes based on limited information, and that can have immediate consequences, especially in custody situations. She stated that she gathered essential items for her child and complied with the officer's instructions before moving into another room. Kelsey described the moment as emotionally overwhelming and said she experienced a severe psychological crisis after what she perceived as a sudden and life-altering turn of events right in front of her colleagues. In her statement, she said she made a brief attempt to harm herself and denied directing her firearm at anyone other than herself. She also described Noonan as someone she considered a friend and stated that she would not have intentionally harmed him. Kelsey further criticized the response of the officers, stating that, based on her training as a police officer, she believed the situation involving a person in crisis should have been handled differently, particularly if the individual was perceived as a risk to themselves rather than others. These contrasting accounts form a central dispute in the case, with investigators relying on witness statements, forensic evidence, and officer reports to reconstruct the sequence of events. Kelsey later stated that she had not been trained to use lethal force against a suicidal individual, and she raised concerns about the absence of body-worn cameras within the North Andover Police Department. According to her account, this lack of video evidence contributed to what she described as an inaccurate and incomplete narrative of the events following the shooting. She further alleged that the department's official statement was vague and non-specific, and that the absence of body camera footage made it more difficult to verify the exact sequence of events. Kelsey maintained that she was wrongly accused of pointing her firearm at Officer Noonan. Following the incident, Kelsey was hospitalized for approximately 53 days. She sustained serious injuries, including damage to her lung, diaphragm, and liver, as well as multiple broken ribs. She received treatment at Massachusetts General Hospital during her recovery.
What are you thinking?
So it took... I grabbed one of my duffel bags and I first went in the kitchen, and as I was putting the bottles in the bag, it was just kind of like all setting in exactly what was happening, and there was just so many unknowns. And as I was packing things, I was like, okay, Justin just broke up with me via restraining order. We have a wedding in 4 months. Caden is not going to be with me for 2 weeks. That's an eternity for a mom, any mom. And everyone was just brushing over the fact that it was 2 weeks. And I was like, 2 weeks without Caden? And I just kept, in my mind was just going fast, like, I can't work overtime because I have a son now. I can't afford my home by myself without overtime. It was just, I lost everything. Even my doggy was on the restraining order. Maverick, my dog Maverick, was on the restraining order. So my son...
Was he your dog or Justin's dog?
He was my dog. So I saw my baby go, my fiance, my dog, my house. And I knew that was going to be my job too. Because whatever I was accused of wasn't good if at restraining order.
And you didn't have the affidavit?
No.
Where did you go after you went to the kitchen with the duffel bag and the bottles?
I went all around the house because his diapers were in one room on shelves. His bottles and formula were in the kitchen. His toys were in the living room. and his books and stuff were upstairs with his clothes.
Tell us what you did on the first floor before you got upstairs. What was the packing there?
On the first floor was bottles and formula, and he was just getting introduced to like purees, and I had just ordered purees from Target, so I packed all those too. Then I went into the I went into, it was like our exercise room. It had shelving on the wall, and there was just like a ton of boxes of diapers. I just put those aside and was like, 2 weeks, a lot of diapers, so take the boxes. And then I went upstairs.
All right, before you got upstairs, part of the order was that you had to give up your firearms, right?
Yes.
Did you say anything to the officers about the location of your firearms?
Yes, I did.
What did you say?
I told them that they were in the basement.
Was that true?
No,
Why did you tell them that?
because I didn't want them to take them away.
Why not?
Because I wanted to be alone with my firearm and take my life.
When did you make that decision?
I made that decision as I realized I had just lost everything in a 15-second conversation.
Where were your firearms?
They were upstairs in a green safe
In your bedroom?
in my bedroom.
Thank you. So you went upstairs, you mentioned?
Yes.
What was your state of mind at that point, whether or not Justin was coming over or not?
I didn't think Justin was coming over. I knew that Caden was going to Justin, but I would never think Justin was coming over.
Why not?
That's just not like normal practice to put a plaintiff and defendant in the same room intentionally. Usually you're doing the opposite as police officers, so I didn't think Justin was in the house.
And the opposite being what? What's the opposite of what they did here?
They let Justin in my house.
So what's the normal procedure?
Normal procedure is to separate people. It's like the first thing you do on any call where there's any sort of argument. You separate.
So you struck out in terms of what you testified to earlier.
Yeah, I just kept trying to hand them things to make them go away.
Meaning, what do you mean make them go away? Be more specific if you can.
Like,
What was the plan?
I knew if I pulled out my firearm in front of a police officer, I would get shot. That was not my intention, and that's not what I did. I was trying to get them away from me, so that didn't happen. So they weren't put in that position, because I'm not dumb. I was a police officer. If someone takes out a gun in front of you, yes, that's a threat. Yes, that's somebody that you probably feel threatened from.
So, but if you want to kill yourself, why not just let it happen that way?
That's selfish. I would never do that. Even looking back now, like reflecting for 9 months, I think my decision to do it to myself was selfish to everybody who loves me, so I'll just leave it at that. I wanted to kill myself. Me and my gun, no one else involved.
How many different times did you try to have the officers transport some stuff downstairs?
Several.
And, at some point, did Officer Houston leave the second floor?
Yes.
And that left who up there?
Officer Noonan.
So upstairs it was Officer Noonan and yourself.
Yes.
At some point, did you go across that landing to the other room?
Yes.
Tell us about that.
I was on the floor packing more clothes in the duffel bag.
In which room?
My bedroom.
Okay, hold
We
on.
walk up
Hold on.
the stairs to the right.
Okay, so you finish up in the other room and you go to your room.
Yes.
All right. Tell us the circumstances of where do you go, where does Noonan go when you go into your bedroom?
So nobody came into my bedroom with me. I was asked, I can't even say who exactly, like I don't know if Officer Houston had come back up at the time, but somebody asked me, who is that downstairs? And I said, I have no idea. And
Let me ask you a little bit about that. What was your state of mind about you being asked that? What were you thinking about?
I was like, I don't know.
Did you hear anybody come in?
No, but they did. Because they were on the landing, they would be able to. I was like more into my bedroom than them. So I was like, I have no idea who's here. Shouldn't you guys know?
Okay. What happened next?
Officer Houston walked down the stairs first. Officer Noonan followed him down several steps.
Did that give you a chance to do anything?
That was, I knew, my only chance to be alone with my firearm.
Show you Exhibit 51. What's shown in Exhibit 51?
That's my bedroom. That's the room on the top of the landing to the right.
Where's the photographer standing in this picture?
He's standing in the doorway.
When you went to go get that firearm, was there anyone in your view in that landing?
No.
Was this after you saw Noonan depart?
Yes, his back was turned towards me. He was following Officer Houston downstairs.
Did he stay that way, or did he disappear from that scene?
Well, he must have turned around at some point and walked back up the stairs because...
You know how when you're near somebody that's going up and down stairs, you can hear going up and down stairs. Did you hear any particular number of steps?
No, I'm certain I heard him and saw him walk down several steps.
Okay. And how did that affect your state of mind at that very instant?
I knew that was my moment.
To do what?
Kill myself.
What did you do?
So that shoebox was not on top of the green safe.
At the time you were doing this?
At the time, yeah, there was nothing on top of the safe.
All right. And you're referring, for the record, there's a orange-lined box in the picture?
Yeah, it looks like...
Is that what you're talking about?
It looks like a shoebox, yeah, yes.
Mr. Brett, can you just give me a moment to catch
Sure.
up?
Absolutely.
I'm sorry, did you say that that box was not on the, what did you say about that box?
That box was not there. The top of that chest, I'm calling it a safe, it's a chest that locks, that's where I kept my firearms. The top of it, nothing was on it. So whatever was placed there after, that was not there before.
Thank you.
Ready to go, John?
Yes.
What about the chair? Is that how the chair was?
The chair was turned the other way, because that was the chair I Trevino had rocketed in that was not facing that way. The back of the chair was up against the wall, I guess.
So it's kind of like as you'd expect it to be in the room.
Yeah, I would need to pivot like this to be right. So it was probably moved. My room is small.
Okay. And to get at your guns in there, you kind of have to flip up the top of that chest.
Yes.
Were you, where was your focus in terms of the firearm, the chest, whether Noonan's coming back? Where are you focused?
I was just like, hurry up before somebody comes back.
And what did you do?
I grabbed the gun out of the chest. I put it up to my chest here.
So what was going on with you putting it up to your chest? What was that all about? What do you mean when you say you put it up to,
Like
you made a motion to your stomach area, right?
Yeah, like I just grabbed it quickly. I bent over, grabbed it, put it here, took 2 steps backwards, and I don't want to make the motion of what I did because it's horrible. But I put the gun up to my head.
Which hand did you use?
My right hand.
And where on your head did you put it? You can just describe it.
My temple.
Okay. Was Noonan in the door frame by now?
Not yet. He had just walked in, like when I pulled the trigger on myself, with the gun pointing towards my head.
What happened when you pulled the trigger?
He said, "Kelsey, no. Kelsey, no." I pulled the trigger. I'm sorry, but I said,
What happened next?
I got shot.
How long after you said that did you get shot?
I don't even think I got to the K in the word before I was shot.
What would that feel like?
What part?
Getting shot in the chest.
Hurt?
Did the force of that bullet knock you in any particular direction?
It knocked me backwards.
Do you recall what happened with your firearm?
I got moved. It was
Well,
on.
I'm sorry,
Okay.
bad question. I'll ask you a better question.
Okay.
Right at that point, as you're shot and you're flying back or falling back or whatever you want to call it, can you remember what happened with your firearm?
It fell out of my hands. It was to my head, and it fell out of my hand. And I fell on the ground, and the firearm fell on the ground.
Court records indicate that while she was still hospitalized, Kelsey was later arrested and arraigned on charges of armed assault with intent to murder, along with additional counts of assault with a dangerous weapon. She was subsequently indicted in Essex Superior Court, where a grand jury later returned a single count of assault with a dangerous weapon. Yup, the person that was shot and injured was the one being arrested while in hospital. Talk about a horror movie. During her hospitalization, Kelsey engaged with mental health professionals. According to court documents, she was evaluated by a psychiatrist at Massachusetts General Hospital, as well as a consulting psychologist, and was cleared of acute mental health concerns at the time of her discharge. She also underwent a further risk assessment conducted by a licensed social worker, who reportedly reached similar conclusions. Based on these evaluations, Kelsey was assessed as presenting a low risk of violent recidivism. Her attorneys have referenced these assessments in court filings to support their position regarding her mental state following the incident. Kelsey was later transferred to a correctional facility in September 2025. She was briefly released, but was subsequently ordered back into custody after allegedly failing to comply with certain mandated conditions related to her release. The timeline becomes especially significant here, because these legal steps were happening while Kelsey was reportedly in a medical crisis and hospitalized. That raises a practical issue. How does someone effectively respond to legal filings while they are physically unable to participate? Later, the court acknowledges that Kelsey was not able to file responses on time and allowed her to submit them late due to her circumstances. And that detail is important because it shows the court did recognize her inability to engage in proceedings at that time. The filing also references a stipulation for temporary orders entered in October 2025, which included restrictions on parenting time. At that point, it is noted that she was either in custody or otherwise unable to exercise visitation rights. Following her release from custody, Kelsey was subject to court-ordered conditions, including the use of a scram device. A scram device is a monitoring system commonly used in alcohol-related cases that measures alcohol consumption through sweat analysis at regular, randomly scheduled intervals throughout the day. In the case of a scram device, the system monitors alcohol levels continuously and alerts authorities if alcohol is detected. There is heavy focus on alcohol in this case and Kelsey's ability to manage it. The base seems to be the main incident where it was reported that she was overly intoxicated and eventually became violent. This seems to be the main reason that she is monitored so closely for the substance. However, this account was reported from Justin's point of view, which Kelsey vehemently denies. At the time these conditions were imposed, the primary evidence against Kelsey consisted largely of statements made in court documents, particularly the affidavit submitted by Justin Iaquinta. Her physical injuries from the shooting, including broken ribs and damage to her diaphragm and lungs, such injuries can require an extended recovery period and may impact breathing and overall physical functioning during the healing process. Yet she was subjected to a scram device requiring her to consistently blow into the machine, which she later reported caused her severe pain. This is the reason why she could not comply and was sent back to detainment after her initial release. Kelsey's probation officer observed difficulties with her compliance while using the scram device and reported concerns to the court. It was stated in court that Kelsey was experiencing physical pain and was unable to provide adequate breath pressure for the device to function properly. As a result, the device reportedly generated errors or failed to register readings consistently. Kelsey's legal team argued that this was not an attempt to avoid monitoring, but rather a consequence of her physical injuries, which affected her ability to comply with the device's requirements. Her attorney requested that the court consider an alternative method of monitoring, such as daily random blood alcohol testing, stating that Kelsey was willing to comply with alcohol testing in a different form that did not require breath-based input. Despite this request, the court determined that Kelsey was not in compliance with the conditions of her release. The judge concluded that the failure to properly use the scram device constituted a violation of court-ordered conditions, and Kelsey was taken back into custody on the basis of contempt. In courtroom proceedings, the probation officer supported Kelsey's claim that she was experiencing difficulty using the device. However, the judge ultimately ruled against her release at that time. Kelsey remained in custody until late December, when she was released again after her physical condition had improved sufficiently to allow her to comply with alcohol monitoring requirements. Her attorneys later argued that the judge's decisions during this phase of the case reflected bias against Kelsey, a claim that has been raised in various court filings and public commentary. The home where the shooting happened was purchased in Kelsey's name. Although Justin had previously lived there for a period, he later listed his mother's address as his official residence when applying for the restraining order, indicating that he did not consider the property his primary home. While Kelsey was hospitalized, audio recordings are referenced in which Justin reportedly contacted the North Andover Police Department to confirm whether he was permitted to enter the property to collect his belongings, a conversation in which a police officer advised that he was allowed to retrieve his items and that a police detail could be arranged for safety purposes, though he would be responsible for the cost. Justin expressed frustration about being required to pay for a police detail and insisted that he should not be charged. He also reportedly raised concerns about potential confrontations at the property and requested law enforcement support while retrieving his belongings. Justin later went to the residence with several firefighter colleagues. It is recorded that there is video footage showing him forcibly entering the home, triggering a security alarm. The property was under surveillance, and that family members were alerted when the alarm was activated. Justin entered the home, collected personal belongings, and accessed additional items beyond what was expected. He accessed Kelsey's personal computer and financial accounts during this time.
Kelsey Fitzsimmons lawyers filed this video in court yesterday. Lawyers say it shows her fiancé and other men breaking into her house 3 days following the shooting. They claim he stole cash, gift cards, and Fitzsimmons' laptop, which they say he used to withdraw $5,000 from her bank accounts. Lawyers say they then turned the evidence over to prosecutors back in August, but their request to appoint a special prosecutor to look into the video was denied.
Hold on a second. Think about how unbelievable this sequence of events sounds. The father of her child ends the relationship through a restraining order. Her infant son is removed from her care. During the serving of the protection order, she ends up being shot. Then she's arrested. While she's recovering from her injuries and dealing with criminal charges, this Justin character enters her home and steals from her. And through all of this, where was the accountability? It is alleged that approximately $5,000 was transferred from Kelsey's bank account into Justin's account, that changes were made to her work benefits and pension information, and that a previously booked travel refund was redirected. These actions are unauthorized access and misuse of her accounts. Kelsey has remained under court supervision since her release, initially required to reside with her mother in Methuen. After some time, Judge Karp modified certain bail conditions, allowing her to relocate to her own apartment while still subject to monitoring and random compliance checks by probation authorities to ensure adherence to restrictions, including prohibitions on weapons and alcohol. Despite the earlier court-imposed living arrangements, the custody dispute involving the child would continue independently through the legal system. Kelsey would need to demonstrate stability, including housing and employment, to support her efforts to regain or maintain custody. Judge Karp also allowed Kelsey to begin initiating visitation with her son and to pursue formal custody proceedings. The trial of former North Andover police officer Kelsey Fitzsimmons started March 23, 2026. During the proceedings, the court heard testimony regarding the circumstances surrounding the shooting, including questions about firearm handling, officer conduct, and the events leading up to the incident. The prosecution argued that Kelsey acted recklessly, while the defense maintained that Kelsey was only attempting to shoot herself during an emotionally stressful and rapidly evolving situation. The judge reviewed the evidence presented by both sides before announcing the verdict. Throughout the trial, both the prosecution and defense emphasized the importance of carefully evaluating the facts and witness testimony. The trial concluded on March 26, 2026. Kelsey Fitzsimmons was acquitted of all criminal charges brought against her in this trial. She faced a single criminal charge of assault with a dangerous weapon. Essex Superior Court Judge Jeffrey Karp found her not guilty after determining that the prosecution failed to meet its burden of proof beyond a reasonable doubt.
Kelsey Fitzsimmons beams as she walks out of court, a free woman.
And my verdict is and must be not guilty.
The child custody case between Kelsey Fitzsimmons and her ex-fiancé Justin A. Lyon is active and ongoing, with their next major court date scheduled for July 13, 2026. Justin A. Lyon retains primary custody of their toddler under an existing agreement established prior to the criminal trial. On April 14, 2026, Essex County Probate and Family Court Judge Mary Black vacated the absolute no-contact order regarding the child. This modification allows Kelsey to have contact and work toward a visitation schedule with her son. And after a hearing on April 28th, the court issues another temporary order. And this is where custody and parenting time become more clearly defined. According to the order, the child's primary residence remains with the father. Meanwhile, the mother is granted supervised parenting time. That includes scheduled visits every other weekend, specifically Saturday and Sunday from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m., with supervision required either through a professional supervisor or in a monitored setting. There is also a provision allowing extended time on Mother's Day and permission for immediate family members to be present during visits. Additionally, the mother is responsible for the cost of supervised visitation. The restraining order between Fitzsimmons and Alayan was downgraded to a simple no-abuse order. They are legally permitted to be in each other's presence and communicate, but the cross prohibitions against abuse and the firearms surrender mandate remain active. As we wrap up this case, it's hard not to reflect on some of the broader questions it raises about our justice and family court systems. One of the most troubling aspects is how quickly life can be turned upside down based on allegations alone. In many jurisdictions, temporary protective or custody-related orders can be issued before all of the evidence has been fully examined. While these measures are intended to protect those who may be at risk, they can also have profound consequences for the person on the receiving end. A parent can lose access to their child, suffer damage to their reputation, experience emotional distress, and even lose their job long before the facts have been fully tested in court. This case also leaves many people asking whether the outcome was fair from the very beginning. Kelsey Fitzsimmons was the one who faced criminal charges, yet she was not the officer who fired the weapon. Was he not supposed to be charged so he could prove in court that it was a result of self-defense? Was it appropriate for her to bear the weight of a criminal prosecution under these circumstances? Reasonable people may disagree, but it is certainly a question worth discussing. Now that the verdict has been delivered, many will see it as a form of vindication. Others may have a different perspective. What is clear is that this case has had a significant impact on Kelsey's life, her career, and her relationship with her child. I'd like to hear from you. Do you believe Kelsey was vindicated by this verdict? Do you think the case was handled fairly from start to finish? And what, if anything, should be changed to better balance the need for protection with the rights of those accused? As for Kelsey, we wish her the very best as she continues to navigate the custody proceedings ahead. Hopefully, with the criminal case now behind her, she can begin the process of rebuilding her life, restoring her reputation, and moving forward with her family. Following her acquittal on March 26, 2026, reporters asked Kelsey if she intended to try to get her job back with the police force. She declined to comment directly, stating, "I don't know what my career goals are at the moment." Instead of returning to law enforcement, Kelsey and her legal team announced in April 2026 that they are filing presentment letters against the town of North Andover, which serves as the preliminary step toward launching a civil lawsuit over how the 2025 incident was handled. Thank you for watching. If you found this coverage informative, please like, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. I'll see you in the next one.
I got shot. I went to jail for 103 days. I haven't seen my son. I had to sell my home that I worked very hard for. So this is my first breath of fresh air, and I feel like I can breathe again. However, my fight is not over. I have a son that I need to reunite with, and that's where we are right now. There's not a word. If you want an image of it, picture me on a mat in a jail cell crying for my son day after day after day after day. There's not a word for that, but that is what happened to me. Don't stop fighting for what's right, and when you know you didn't do something wrong, keep fighting for that.